How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. So, book week is rolling right along. If anybody had a chance yesterday, we covered Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, the fictional biography of Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest traders that ever lived. Today, I'm bringing you Donald Trump, one of his very first books called Trump, The Art of the Deal. In my opinion, an absolute business classic and one that everybody out there should read. And so we're going to jump into this today. So here's the cover. This is the original cover, the 1987 original cover. And that's why I went with this. They have released kind of updated versions of the book over the years with a kind of more modern cover on it. But I like the classic one. I like the old 1987 one. So here's the real quick. So the author, again, Donald J. Trump with Tony Schwartz. This book was written in 1987. It was originally published by Ballantine Books. It is approximately 367 pages. And this is a best-selling business memoir blending an autobiography and advice detailing Donald Trump's rise as a real estate mogul in 1980s New York. So what is the overview of this book? So basically, it was co-authored with journalist Tony Schwartz, who later distanced himself from the book, claiming he exaggerated Trump's persona. I wanted to put that in there to be fair. I think, again, some of that I think had to do with a little bit of politics, years later down the road, whatever. But like I said, to be thorough, be unbiased, I wanted to just put that little note in there. Okay. But this basically covers Trump's deal-making philosophy, his major projects, i.e. Trump Tower, and his approach to negotiating and branding. And on the left-hand side there's a picture of the inside of Trump Tower. Obviously, the very famous staircase that, Trump ultimately came down in 2015 when he had made his announcement that he was running for president. But you can also see there on the right-hand side one of the most gorgeous, I think, waterfalls that is in any type of a commercial building. The waterfall there is absolutely spectacular in there. And obviously this building was made very famous, probably more so when Trump was doing The Apprentice in the early 2000s. Obviously all the contestants would be there staying at Trump Tower, got a lot of, images. And then that was really when I think it became a little bit more touristy, a lot more tourists going to Trump Tower to see the waterfall and the big, staircases and all the commercial shops and everything there on the first couple floors of Trump Tower. But here we go. Okay, so the book details, it starts out with basically Trump's early life. So we see that, Donald Trump was born in 1946 in Queens, New York, to a wealthy real estate family, joined his father's business after attending Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. So Donald Trump's father was named Fred. So it was Fred Trump. And basically, Donald took over the Trump organization from his father in 1971, and he wanted to shift the focus on high-profile Manhattan projects. Now, his father was basically a housing developer. He, built a lot of what you would call almost like row-style houses, and basically, I believe it was in Queens and Brooklyn. I believe that his father was a gentleman who basically really hit the baby boom after World War II. So his father built a lot of houses in throughout the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And, but it was a lot of his smaller, more cookie cutter row home type houses that he built, a lot of developers did in like Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Boston, all the major cities were, just had a lot of that similar type of stock row home type housing that got built in a lot of the urban landscapes. And that was really what his father specialized in. But Donald did not want to do that. He had his sight not on like one of the boroughs, not on like well, I guess Manhattan is one of the, but not like Brooklyn or Queens. He wanted to go into Manhattan. He wanted to go into the heart of what he saw as where all the action, where all the bigger players were. He had just kind of a much bigger vision for what he wanted to do as far as his real estate career. And the book highlights his early deals like the Commodore Hotel renovation, showcasing his boldness and media savvy. I actually really loved in the book He talks about the very first deal that he did, which was basically an apartment complex in Ohio. Surprisingly enough, and what was funny was he would talk about how he would look in the real estate. He would look in the Wall Street Journal every day, and the Wall Street Journal would have listed out basically like these defunct properties or the properties that were in foreclosure or getting foreclosed on, and again, they don't really do that today. It's not really, they don't really have those kind of listings in there. And again, most people aren't even reading the paper. I'm still reading the paper. I love the paper version, but I guess I'm old school. um, but again, back in the day, that's what they did. They break out the Wall Street Journal. And this was also when the Wall Street Journal, when all the stocks were in fractions, not decibels, they were in fractions. An eighth, a third, a fourth. It's like much different Wall Street Journal back in those days. But yeah, he would scour the Wall Street Journal every day, and then he found this basically, okay, there's this defunct apartment complex out in Ohio, and he basically bought the complex, renovated it, and basically the total project cost was $4 million, and then he ended up leasing the whole thing back up, much better rent roll, and then he sold it for $8 million, basically making himself a $4 million profit on the deal, and then that's when he came back. And he started doing, that's when he started getting into the bigger projects like the Commodore Hotel renovation and the Hyatt Hotel and some of the other ones that we'll talk about here in a minute. But I love how the book really talks about his early life, early dealings, what his father did, his first project, and then how he got started in some of the other more bigger detailed projects that he got into. So then we get into kind of like the deal making philosophy. And I'm not sure. I took this picture. I'm not sure if this picture was from Donald Trump's first press conference in the 1970s. It's definitely from a press conference in the 1970s. I'm just not sure if it's from his first one. I think in the book it says his first press conference was called in like 1974, something like that. And again, this is right from that time period. Like I said, I don't know if that is, but it is a picture of an early press conference that he did in the 1970s. So, but anyway, I digress. Okay. So the deal making philosophy. So basically the book outlines 11 principles, and I'm not going to go through every one, but some of the ones included were basically think big, protect the downside, and use your leverage. It emphasizes negotiation tactics, maximize options, know your market, and never appear desperate. Promotes self-promotion, exemplified by Trump's publicity stunts. and I'm sorry. To me, that's a big part of what makes the book appealing. Is I love his publicity stunts. Okay, key projects and successes. So details iconic projects: Trump Tower in 1983, the Grand Hyatt Hotel, and Atlantic City casinos, to name a few. Portrays Trump as a visionary who transformed New York skyline and redefined luxury. Claims exaggerated successes. Now, I had to put this in here because of some of the things that have been out there about the book over the years. Basically, financial figures primarily, not the projects themselves or the fact that they were successful or whatever. But there are a lot of things out there over the years that have basically said like, oh, like if he said, for example, on the Grand Hyatt Hotel, and I don't remember specifically, but if the Grand Hyatt Hotel, I don't know, he made $30 million on that deal. Well, he probably didn't make 30 million. He probably made 14 million, something like that. So again, it's not saying that the deals weren't successful or that he didn't make money, but they're saying that he pumped up the numbers that he actually made on some of these projects. So again, okay, fair enough. Wanted to put that out there. I did want to talk about, the one project that the book talks about, which I thought was really cool, was the ice skating rink in Central Park. Apparently from Trump's office, I guess he looked out the window every day and saw this ice skating rink, and this ice skating rink sat there and was beat up, and the city was just working on it for years and just could not get this thing done. And finally, Trump, I think, just got fed up of looking at this eyesore, and basically he took his own crew down there, took his own construction crew down there, rebuilt the whole rink, I think in just a few months, and got it all done. Handed it back to the city. It was like, here you go, guys, all done. It's now beautiful ice skating rink. And now again, Did he do that for some uh, you know, you know, self-aggrandizement? Of course he did. It's like, did he use it for some self-promotion? Of course he did. But at the same time, did he also do it for the people of New York? Yes, absolutely. Did he do it because he thought it was the right thing to do? Yes, he did. Absolutely. Um, and I really liked that story. I always have liked that story, that he did that. Um, Okay, some of the strengths of the book. It has an engaging style. It's written in kind of Trump's brash conversational voice, making it accessible and entertaining. Its insightful anecdotes offers a vivid look at 1980s real estate in New York's elite circles. It has timeless advice. It goes into negotiation tips and branding strategies that remain relevant for entrepreneurs even for today. Quote, it's a great read for anyone who wants to understand Trump's mindset. Yes, I would absolutely say that. Weaknesses of the book: exaggeration and inaccuracy around financials. Again, self-aggrandizing tone. I'm sorry. I like the self-aggrandizing tone. That's the allure there. Limited depth. Focuses on Trump's perspective, omitting broader economic or ethical context. So yeah, I don't. It's not big on kind of painting the picture of the overall economy or whatever. One thing it does, though, it does give you a very vivid picture of what New York was like in the 1970s. And to say it wasn't pretty, it wasn't pretty. New York was basically literally bankrupt. They were on their butt. The city was falling apart, just crime everywhere. The subways were a hot mess. As much as people say it was bad today, it probably was a lot worse in the 70s. And Trump did, for whatever you want to say. This book paints him as, visionary who completely changed Manhattan, probably single-handedly. That's obviously an exaggeration. He didn't single-handedly do this. Did he, however, have a major impact on the city? Yes, he did. Did he change the skyline of New York? Yes, he did. Did he do some incredible projects in New York City? Yes, he did. Did he find incredibly creative ways to do a lot of these projects and pull them off and make them successful? Yes, he did. And then finally, we get to the main recommendation. So conclusion and recommendation here. So the book is a bold, revealing look at Trump's mindset in the 1980s, or I was to say Trump's mindset and 1980s capitalism, blending practical advice with self-promotion. Ideal for readers curious about business, branding, or Trump's persona. Read it for historical and cultural insights. Yes, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. That is my conclusion and recommendation on the book. I think you. Oh, you know what? Darn it! I actually missed a slide here. So themes and relevance, real quick. So basically, it captures the 1980s excess of the rise of celebrity-driven branding, foreshadowing modern influencer culture. Absolutely. Explores the power of perception in business relevant to today's media-driven economy. Sparks debate on ethics in deal-making. And then the quote, Trump sold himself as a brand before it was a trend. And yes, absolutely. So I would say a couple things here on branding and self-promotion. If you're not going to promote yourself, who is? Like, you have to do that. I don't care what you're doing. You have to get out there. You have to promote yourself. It doesn't mean it has to be, ridiculously narcissistic or ridiculously over the top, but I'm just saying that you have to have confidence, and you have to go out there and you have to promote yourself. If you're not going to promote yourself, nobody else is going to promote you. So you have to promote it. Just be humble, though, and be smart about the way that you do it. It doesn't have to be like over the top. But again, and perception becomes reality. In other words, people want to do business with companies or individuals that they perceive are successful. That just is what it is. People want to be around other successful people. They want to do business with companies that they perceive to be successful businesses that are very good at what they do. That is just as true as it is. So perception becomes reality. If people perceive you to be a very successful person, if people perceive that your business to be a great business that the people love working at, that's going to become the reality. And so again, you have to be very mindful of that. I think as you operate any business out there in the business world. And then I'll just say this on a final note. I remember, I grew up in a time with Trump as a kid where, he was a celebrity. He wasn't just a real estate mogul. He was a celebrity, and he was loved by everybody. And everybody wanted to go and meet with Donald Trump in New York, especially in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Everybody wanted because they wanted to understand his mindset. They wanted to understand this idea of how the self-promotion, the way that he developed his brand of himself, if you will. Everybody looked at that. Musicians, athletes, business people, they all, came to him. And he had a Rolodex probably like no other. It's like, Rockefeller, Oprah Winfrey, anybody you can name, they were there. And again, I remember that, and I try to keep that in context when you think about all the politics today. It's easy. I think it's easy to get lost in the politics. And if you're older, if you're 40 or older, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. If you're definitely if you're 35 or younger, and you didn't grow up necessarily in that period, and you didn't see Donald Trump in those different contexts, and you remember that there was a time when Donald Trump was incredibly beloved by the media, when the media kissed his butt, and the media, they every 5 minutes they wanted him to be out there doing something. I remember that time. That's the time I grew up in. And so, like I said, but forget all that for the moment. The book is a great book, and it does have some great lessons in there. If you want to learn about real estate deal making, if you want to see what the average day of a real estate developer is like, if you want to know a little bit more about negotiation and branding and marketing and self-promotion, this is the book for you. And that's exactly why I pointed this book out. So there's a lot of things in this book that I like. It was a book that I read very early on in high school. I think I was like 14 years old the first time I read this book, and it was which was the early 90s. And I loved it. I loved it. I like absorbed it like nothing else, and would come back and would ask, would want to talk to my dad and other people about it all the time. And so it was great. It was good stuff. So with that, I will wrap up by basically saying, if you like this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. Remember, we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below, as I always love getting back to everybody. And as always, make sure to check out some of the other content on the channel. Book Week will continue rolling. I hope everybody will tune in. But until then, have a great day out there, and I will see everyone again real soon. Thanks a lot.